and other cars as well. So we've got a few cars here. So there's races within races in this one. So I can tell you we've got Clios, we have TCR cars in here. The front two of Alexander Animas, Ricky Kumba and Jonathan Mullen are sharing the 99 Audi RS3 LMS. And now they've been doing a few endurance races over the past couple of weeks. They did the 6 hours of Yas last weekend. They did Dubai 24 hours as well with ZRT Motorsport. Unfortunately, it didn't go their way in Yas Marina in the 6 hours, but great to see them back in the NGK UAE ProCar Championship. Then we have the always fun to watch, the Renault Clios, and that's Sultan Al-Sawaidi out in front with a 91. We're just waiting for the cars now to work their way out of the pit lane, hence why we can't see them on the grid, but I can assure you they're working their way now through the Bowl complex to line up in their grid formation. So once we get them on the grid, we'll have a quick look through at who's around. And as we said, we've got a mix of cars here. We've got TCR, Renault Clio, and then we have the GT86s. Now, we should have had some GT cars on the grid. We should have had 2 Ferraris, but it looks like Dragon Racing decided not to partake in the races here this weekend. I know that Tanihana withdrew yesterday, and we'll wait and see when they like, because they're just going making their way through the pit lane.
So there are a couple of interesting stories that we should pick up on going into this race, because we have the rent-to-race cars in the Toyota GT86 camp. Now, these guys basically show up. They obviously get the opportunity to go training. They learn pretty much as novices how to learn racing, and then they get the opportunity to put all of that knowledge to the test in this particular championship. It's great to see drivers coming through to be able to do this kind of thing. And obviously we have Avik Anwar, who is there in one of the Toyota GT86s, and in particular one to watch this weekend is Ahmad Al Musa in the Renault Clio Cup. He is competing in his first ever car race in this particular race, so this is going to be very interesting indeed for him. A fairly similar story actually to Mohammed Al Balushi in the Cooper VIP car. Now that is basically given over to competitors who are competing in racing for the first time. They're getting their first taste of motorsport as well. So this is a great championship for people who are novices in the sport to really try their hand at this level of competition.
Well, just a quick note about Ahmed Al Musa. He's actually done a lot of racing here in the United Arab Emirates. He's done the Golf 12 Hour. He did the GT86 Cup for a number of years here with a beautiful throwback livery of the 86 Cup car.
I must be thinking of Mo Al Balushi then. That's the one I'm thinking
and
of.
And he did a couple of rounds with rent2race.ae as well. We usually actually see another driver usually part of the wheel, but he's not here this weekend. So Ahmed Al Musa's taken over the driving duties for that car, and he's certainly one to watch as well. He's very feisty behind the wheel of his 86. No doubt he'll be feisty behind the wheel of the Clio as well. And he does a lot of time attack here as well in his Mazda, which is always great to see that they dip their toes elsewhere. The Clios are probably the cars to watch here because they always put on a fantastic show. These cars are absolutely fantastic to watch and fantastic to drive.
Yes, indeed. I mean, it doesn't matter where you go in the world. Cooper racing, Clio Cup racing is always very, very entertaining, very exciting. I think the last time I had any practical application for commentating on Clio racing was the Po Grand Prix a few years ago, back in 2017. Sat at the side of the road waiting for a GT4 race to finish. It got to 10 o'clock at night. And obviously it's pitch black at Po in France, a fabulous street circuit by that point. And we all hastened to leave our box, and it's like, no, we're not done yet. Seriously? It's like 10:30 at night. What have we got? Yes. Oh, we've still got the Renault Clios to come out yet. So there you are, 10:30 at night on the streets of Po with Renault Clios. Absolute carnage and pandemonium because it was sprint racing rather than endurance. But yeah, these cars are magic to watch. It doesn't matter how many generations of Clio we go through in the world of motorsport over the years. They are genuinely good fun to watch.
So on the left-hand side of your screen at the front of the field here, the Cupra there, that is Alexandros Animas behind the wheel of that. Now, he's a champion, actually, from the Renault Clio Cup here in the United Arab Emirates as part of the NGK UAE ProCar Championship. He's also done a number of karting events here, so he's very well known, and he's always been a part of motorsport. And of course, he's racing for Maritza Racing, which is his family-run team. Dan also races in the Cupra GST, just not partaking in this weekend's race. Alongside him is the Ricky Kumba, Jonathan Mullen, driven number 99. As we said, they're the ones that have been doing a lot of endurance racing over the past couple of months. Then we've got some more GTs, the GT86 cars, apologies, at the back of the grid there. One to point out is Scott Dimmler. Now, he's actually being coached by Keba Carmona, who is a champion from a few years ago. And the American driver, very, very young man indeed. He's been racing, he actually raced World of Outlaws in the US and did a lot of sprint car racing. They're a very interesting man to talk to, and it's just amazing because I've always been a a fan of sprint cars. I've got to say, they've got to be some of the craziest racings. And obviously now he's taken from the dirt, he's come over to do track racing here, and he's massively improved over the seasons. And it's great to see that they've brought the GT86s now into the NGK UAE ProCar Championship for more exciting racing here.
Do you know what? That's fascinating. I always like to hear stories about World of Outlaws. My commentary career actually started with the British equivalent of those, the Brisker Formula One stock cars of the UK. They are absolutely mental, and you do get some phenomenal racing drivers in that category, a lot of whom have come out of the world of short ovals and gone on to touring cars and GTs. So yeah, great to pick up on the story of Scott Dimmler. Hopefully the American is going to go well here today, and obviously so it might just be able to hang on his actions here at the Dubai Autodrome.
So we should have three classes here. We have TCR, we have the Renault Clio Cup, and then we have the class for the 86s as well. We have a total of 11 drivers who will take the start of the race. As we said, Alexander Sanivas and the Ricky Kumba, Jonathan Mullen, number 99 on the front row of the grid. Of course, Jonathan Mullen, a staple actually in the NGK UAE ProCar Championships, been racing for a number of years and in a number of cars as well. I remember the last time I saw him out was in a Honda Integra a few years ago. Great to see him back out there. Behind them is Sultan Al Suwaidi, a very popular man on the grid and popular within the paddock as well. There's the Emirati, with alongside him is Ahmed Al-Musa, another Emirati driver here, and interesting to see him actually in a Clio rather than an 86. Rahil Tanaja, the Indian, with Kenny Murray alongside for company. Again, two drivers to watch out for. Kenny Murray actually is getting a few tips here and there from a previous champion in the Renault Clio Cup. That, of course, is Will Morrison. Haven't seen him popping around the pit, but he's no doubt somewhere down there. Then we have Muhammad Al-Balushi in the 20 with Avik Anwar alongside for company on row number 4. Then Salam Al-Ketbi with Fahad Al-Zabi on the 5th row, in the 11 and 7. And then rounding out the field, we have Scott Dimmler in his red 86. So a total of 11 cars will take to the grid and the race as well. And it will be 3 races in one, essentially.
And that's always really exciting because you've got totally different strategies playing out and different grades of competition. The Clios will slightly edge out the Toyota GT86s in terms of raw one-lap pace. The TCRs will disappear off into the distance, and by the time they start catching the GT86s, it'll be interesting to see who blinks first. And
it'll be a 30-minute race here for the NGK UAE ProCar Championship. No mandatory pit stops to deal with here, just a 30-minute shootout to see who will take the overall victory and, of course, the class victory as well. As you said, unfortunately, no GT cars here this weekend. We usually have a couple of Ferraris and occasionally a Merc as well, but no Ferraris to report here for this weekend. So it's just essentially touring cars with some GTs, some 86s, on the grid as well.
Well, that's certainly good news for everybody else, because they probably would have expected to get here and see Tani Hanna and Paul Seabright just disappear off into the distance. And now it's not going to happen. So they're going to have a TCR almost certainly taking the win, although you don't want to put the... You don't want to sign, seal it and deliver it straight away, because there are 2 of them and they could well take each other out at some point in the race. It's never signed and sealed until the checkered flag flies.
So I've noticed on the grid that the number 77 has the driver's side door open, and the team looks to be chatting with the stewards. Does Sultan Al Suwaidi, sorry, that's Ahmed Al-Musa, apologies, does he have an issue already in the rent2race.ae 4th placed car on the grid? Now, this may delay the start ever so slightly, but definitely some chit-chat going on down on the grid. Hopefully it's good news, while the driver door's just shut, so we should hopefully get underway soon for the first race of the weekend for the NGK UAE ProCar Championship. The BMW M2 is our safety car here for the race weekend, for all the races we have, and of course we're still using the 4.39 kilometre configuration in the international circuit with a total of 11 corners. So we cut off at turn 2 and then we head on over to turn 3 and 4. And then we blast off down the back straight and into turn 5. Then we do the quick right-hander, or left-hander, excuse me, into turn 6. And another tight right-hander for turn 7, prime of taking opportunity up towards the UP building. And then we race our way down towards the Bowl complex. Into the right-hander once again, through the final right-hander. And that's another great place to overtake here. Looks like we're about to get underway for the start. The formation lap are about to get underway here for the first time for the NGK UAE ProCar Championship. It won't be a standing start, it'll be a rolling start as always for the NGK guys here. It looks like we're set to go on the formation lap. The safety car heads out and we'll see the Cupra and the Audi RS3 head on shortly behind them with the rest of the field all bunched up.
Green flags fly, 2:45 in the afternoon local time here in the United Arab Emirates as the UAE ProCar Championship sponsored by NGK spark plugs, hands its way around on the formation lap, and the three classes of car, TCR, Clio Cup and Toyota AE86, all make their way on their formation lap. We should see some nice inter-team battles and inter-class battles as well, with 5 Clios, 4 Toyota E86s, and of course the 2 TCR cars out in front. Now, who's going to get the jump on the other, Anivas or Kumba? We will obviously have to find out, but the temperature is steadily climbing here. It's climbed to 26 degrees Celsius, could reach a dizzying height of 29 by the time we're done, because obviously this is now starting to get to be the hottest part of the day, and it only really reaches its peak temperature at about 4 p.m. local time.
Well, we're currently in the world's coolest winter here in the United Arab Emirates, and it certainly has been a very chilly one, especially at night. But when it comes to the afternoon and the sun starts to shine on the track below, it gets rather warm out there, and with cars with no AC and barely a crack in the window to allow in some cold air, it's very warm behind those seats, especially here in the UAE. And I can imagine the Audi is much hotter in comparison to the Cupra, because that dark livery will not be dissipating the heat, as it should be consuming as much heat as possible. So I can imagine Ricky and Jonathan are going to have quite a tough time behind the wheel of that RS3. So we're set to go racing now, as we're about halfway through the formation lap here.
Now the question is going to be who is doing which race, because obviously Ricky and Jonathan are sharing that car. I'm assuming it's going to be Ricky who races this one, and then Jonathan who races the other race.
Presumably, or we could see a quick driver change at some point through the race, because here we don't use the transponders, or at least the individual transponders for the drivers during the NGK races, so we have to essentially just take a wild guess on who's behind the wheel. Now, I wonder if we can spot either Jonathan or Ricky. I don't think I can spot either of them. They're a bit far away from our position, as we're set to get underway now for race 1 of the NGK UAE ProCar Championship. The BMW M2 leads them now down towards the bowl complex here for what should be the last time at this speed, and then we're up to racing speed through turn 16. It will be 2 lines of racing. They'll go side by side as they come across the line. As we said, it will be a rolling start with touring cars, Renault Clios and the 86s as well, and it looks like an even bunch, as we said, for both the Renaults and the 86s. It's going to be some very, very fun racing here today.
And it's going to be an interesting one to watch in the standings as well, as Rahil Taneja and Ahmad Al Musa are obviously battling for the title lead, and they'll obviously have some pressure from Sultan Al Sawadi, who lines up in pole position in that category of the Clio Cup class. It should be interesting in the AE86 as well. Scott Dimmler just a little way in front of Salam Al-Kitbi, who is there ahead of him on the starting grid. So this should be an absolute classic, with all 3 classes set to give us plenty of entertainment and drama. The red lights are on, they go out now, and we are racing at Dubai Autodrome.
It looks like Rahil Taneja is already looking for a way around the outside of the 91. That's Sultan Al Sawadi in the 91 going down towards turn 1 for the first time, but who gets through cleanly? Well, we're going to have to wait and see, as Ahmad Al Musa is in front of the pack for now. The Renault Clios, as Anibas leads going into turn 1 here, with the number 99 from ZRT Motorsport right behind them as they work their way through the first corner now. Does everyone get through cleanly? Well, we've seen the TCR cars go through. What about the Renault Clios? Have they all made it through? Because it looked like 3 wide.
So obviously they're going to need to try and keep the panel bashing to a minimum on this opening lap, but it looks to me as though everybody's pretty much got through with a Clio-shaped car in that class. They have now sorted themselves out a little bit. Looks like one of the Clios has actually lost ground and delved into the AE86 class by accident. So it should be interesting to see how things go. The leader in the class for the Clios, though, is still Ahmad Al Musa, who is in front of Al Sawadi and Taneja. And the one who has dropped down the order appears to be Kenny Murray, who is down in amongst the likes of Avik Anwar and Salam Al-Ketbi.
We see some side-by-side action going through turn 10, and there's 2 86s, sort of 2 lines of 86s, with Scott Dimmler getting the early jump on Fahad Al-Zabi as they work their way through the first sector. But it looks like Fahad has found a way past Scott Dimmler, going now into sector 2, and they race their way up to the UP building hairpin. It looks like Scott Dimmler is going to have to settle for the 11th position for now, but let's wait and see when they come across the line who is where. As Anivas is through the bowl complex, excuse me, with the ZRT Motorsport car right behind him. Well, we do say right, looks like 3 to 4 car lengths actually between the two of them as they race their way down towards the final corner here for the first time. A Greek driver across the line in the lead of the NGK UAE ProCar Championship, followed by the number 99 for ZRT Motorsport.
Now, we've either got an early issue for Al Balushi and Scott Dimmler, or their transponders are not quite playing ball at the moment, so hopefully they come round. I've counted the cars that are circulating on this first lap. It doesn't look like we've lost any of them. So Alexandros Anivas still doing a good job out in front, and of course he leads the category ahead of Ricky Kumba, having had 4 wins from 4 starts and hoping to make it 5 out of 5 today.
It looks like Scott Dimmler has made a mistake somewhere going through Sector 3 because he's lost significant ground to Fahad Al-Zabi as he was battling up before that. Avik Anwar has moved up into 7th position. As we see a great battle here between the two Clios, the 91 and the 77. That's Ahmed Al Musa with Sultan Al Suwaidi battling for 3rd place overall. Now they are not on the back straight yet. They're still going through the first sector. They pop into view now, and it looks like the 77 has just slotted in behind. As we're looking at Scott Dimmler's car, I wonder if there was something wrong there with the left rear, because it looked a little bit wonky, if I'm honest, going through. But he is still at race pace. He's lapping. We did that lap 7 seconds slower compared to the closest 86 car, which is Fahad Al-Zabi's PB Performance number 7. As we race away now on lap number 2, it is Alexandros Anivas, the Greek driver, out in front for Maritza Racing. ZRT Motorsport runs second, as Alexandros Anivas goes purple through Sector 1 and Sector 2. And to the bowl he goes now for the 2nd time, and he's really stretching that gap out between himself and the Audi.
This battle for the Clio Cup victory is going very well. Sultan Al Suwaidi just keeping himself out in front of Ahmad Al Musa at the moment, but you definitely sense that Al Musa is getting very irritated, sat staring at the back window of that Renault Clio, because it's already getting very tight between them, and Rahil Taneja is not far away either, so a 3-way scrap between those 3 Clio drivers as the TCRs come across the line. No problem at all for the 2 of them, Anivas and Kumba, so they are continuing on in fine fettle. But this is where it's going to get interesting. I wonder if Sultan Al Suwaidi has actually been given an opportunity to get clear of Al Musa, and now Taneja is starting to make his impression. They come out of the final turn. Here is that category battle. And yes, Sultan Al Suwaidi has a little bit of a gap. Al Musa's under pressure from Taneja, and he could get a chance into turn 1. He's got a great final corner exit.
And we've got a battle brewing as well in the 86 Cup as well between, that looks to be Mohamed Al-Balushi, actually no, it's Avik Anwar and Salam Al-Ketbi, and actually no, it's Avik Anwar who's dropped down, as on the inside goes the 77 of Ahmed Al Musa. Looks like Rahil Taneja tried to make the move, but it hasn't worked out just yet in the Renault Clios. So Avik Anwar has lost 2 places on that lap to Mohamed Al-Balushi and Salam Al-Ketbi, which puts the Cooper VIP car of Mohamed Al-Balushi now in 7th place, and Salam Al-Ketbi's PP Performance 86 car in 8th position.
Well, Alexandros Anivas is just continuing his early 2020-2021 season form. As he continues, he's had 4 wins from 4 starts and is motoring on in fine style again. Here's Sultan Al Suwaidi and the 2 cars behind Al Musa and Taneja, all battling for the Clio Cup win here in the UAE ProCar Championship. And this is where you've really got to have nerves of steel, because these are long races, half an hour in these touring cars, and they're not easy to hang on to when you start to get a little bit too much heat into the tyres, when the top level of the rubber starts to wear, it starts to grain, and you start to find that the surface is a bit more like an oil slick than it is a racetrack. So it's very, very tricky for the drivers to keep the car on the island, and that's when they really need to be coping with the pressure by not pushing the cars too hard.
And I noticed a little bit of a lock-up on Alexandros Anivas' car going through the bowl. It was coming from the left rear, so maybe a bit too hot through the corners. Of course, he doesn't need to use too much of his brakes now. He's got a sizable gap between himself and the number 99, which is doing him diligence here in the opening laps of the NGK UAE ProCar Championship, as the Renault Clio Cup battle rages on here through the final corners to go. Now, let's start to build a little bit of gap now between each other. There's about 2 or 3 Clios in between one another, but it is still a trio for now, and Kenny Murray's not too far behind. He's showing us 2.9 seconds, but he is closing that gap down as the laps tick over here, as they're across the line now to complete lap number 3. It is still Sultan Al Suwaidi who still leads from Ahmed Al Musa from Rahil Taneja, and Kenny Murray is in 4th place, and he's certainly with his shot, as we saw side by side, they're going down towards turn 1 in the Clios. Now, that would have been Ahmed Al Musa trying to make a move on the inside of Sultan Al Suwaidi, but not close enough. But he's Rahil Taneja has really closed the gap in going into that corner. Avik Anwar has moved up in the AE86 category now to lead that class, with Mohamed Al-Balushi shown as in the Clio Cup in the number 20. So he's a bit further back from Kenny Murray to be in the mix for the top step of the podium here. So Avik Anwar leads AE86 with Salam Al-Ketbi in 2nd, Fahad Al-Zabi in 3rd, and Scott Dimmler rounding out the top 4. And it looks like whatever problem Scott Dimmler had on the opening lap, it looks like it's kind of cooled down, because now he's dipping into the 204s now, and he's into the low 204s as well. So he's currently catching the PP Performance car, the number 7.
I think ultimately he just kind of ran wide on the opening lap. I think that's why he ended up dropping back, because he ran wide probably in the first chicane, and that's when he ended up losing a bit of ground, or maybe a spin. It's not easy to get these cars pointing in the right direction on the first lap, because those tyres, even though we're obviously here in rather hot intensity of conditions, they are very, very hot, these tyres, when they get going, but they are quite cold off the start. So you've really got to be very careful on that opening lap, and that's when the cars are really vulnerable. There is the 20, that is Mohamed Al Balushi in his first ever car race, I'm fairly sure that is, the Cooper VIP car. Great to see how he has basically gone from being a complete novice driving a racing car to now piloting one in a proper professional motor race. And here we are with just keeping a quick look there at Alexandros Anives, still stretching the gap over Ricky Kumba to 8.5 seconds now, who is in the ZRT Motorsport. But this thrilling battle in the Clio Cup class, third overall, first in class, and any one of these three could still do it. Long way to go.
And especially now when they start tumbling over one another, it's giving Kenny Murray a chance now to catch up. So, and it looks like Rahul Tanaja is shown as the race leader, but that's not his car in the lead there. So there might be a small transponder issue, because Rahul Tanaja there is in the red and white, the one with the thicker red stripes on the bonnet of the car. And he's showed in third, although our screen said that he's leading. There goes correct. So Ahmed Amusa second, Sultan Al-Sawaidi is first in that category, and Rahul Tanaja running third. In terms of where Kenny Murray is now, he's dropped back ever so slightly. He's 4.7 seconds adrift from that battle for the top step of the podium in Clio Cup. But on that lap, all three of those Clios did their personal best, with Rahul Tanaja being the quickest out there with 1:59.613.
Well, Sultan Al-Sawaidi, who leads the Clio Cup class at the moment, he's searching for his first win of the season. He has had a fairly decent start to the year, so he's picked up some good results. He currently lies third in the point standings. He's had 2 thirds and a second coming up to this season, fifth race, so he could really do with a good way to start the proceedings. And he's leading the Clio Cup class at the moment, ahead of Ahmad Al Musa and Rahil Taneja, who are still trying to put on the pressure. Here's a nice little tussle for the lead of the E86 class. That's Avik Anwar and Salem Al-Ketbi. And Al-Ketbi is really starting to put Anwar under some pressure now.
It's good to see Anwar going strong here, because Anwar is relatively new to this sort of racing here in the 86 Cup. We've seen Salem Al-Ketbi race in previous iterations of the 86 Cup here in the United Arab Emirates. Great to see that he's brought his 86 car over to race here in the NGK UAE ProCar Championship. And as you said, the gap there is just 0.2 of a second between the two of them. They've been vying for position. Fahad Al-Zabi, who is in third place in that category, 6.7 seconds adrift. And Scott Dimmler now catching up, as he's 3.2 seconds behind. And evenly matched for those two in 10th and 11th, going through Sector 1 with 49.9s. As Dimmler there slightly slower through Sector 2, about 0.4 of a second slower in comparison to Fahad, as the great battle in the Clio Cup class comes across the line, and neither Ahmed Amusa or Rahil Tanaja can find a way past. I think that's probably one of the widest Clios I've ever seen. Sultan Al-Sawaidi, as you said, looking for his first podium finish here with, well, I've just noticed his flat 12 livery on his car. That's very, very nice.
It's very true. If that Clio was any wider, it would be driving sideways. That's absolutely incredible driving. There is the 55 of Scott Dimmler, who leads the points, of course, in the E86 category. 97 points compared to 45 for Salem Al-Ketbi, who had a double DNF, of course, last time out. That's really hampered his chances of bringing home some good points. But the battle still raging in the Clios. It's still Al-Sawaidi, Al-Musa and Taneja. I have a feeling, looking at the way of the positions of the TCR cars, Alexandros Anives is just coming over the line now to begin lap 7, and they're doing consistent 149s and 150s in the TCRs. The others are only just managing in the Clios to shave under 2 minutes for the lap, while the AE86 are 2 minutes 5 for the lap roughly. So I think it's going to be another 2 laps before Alexandros Anives starts to close on and then lap Scott Dimmler.
Well, with a gap of 12.3 seconds, he hasn't got too much to worry about for the time being. But of course, if he does get stuck in lap traffic, and if he gets stuck behind this battle that we have in the 86 Cup for the lead with Avik Anwar and Salem Al-Ketbi, he might get caught up, because of course those two are in a race of their own and they don't really want to get caught up by anybody else. So they're both going to make their cars as wide as possible, because of course, one, they don't want to be lapped, and two, they don't want their own battle being disrupted. But at the same time, they have to let the race leader through. And with that said, Alexandros Anives might be compromised ever so slightly for his lead, although 12.3 seconds is quite a margin. That could come down quite significantly when he catches those two AE86s as the battle for the Clio Cup lead rages on here, and you can just about see Kenny Murray, who will work his way through the final corner there, just out of shot in the background. He sees an action up ahead and he's like, I want to be part of that. I want to challenge for a race victory here. Here is the Mohamed Al Balushi, number 20, looking for a strong finish here in the Renault Clio Cup. As you said, this is his first time out, and he's going strongly here. He's still circulating in 5th position. He's about a minute or so off of the fastest lap times from the guys in front of him, but he is still circulating, and he's just getting to grips with the car, getting to grips with the team and everything, and really sort of sorting this out as sort of a testing session more than a race so far. But of course he is still in a race, and he still, in all fairness, has a chance, because if we see the top 3 in the class sort of tumble over one another, and this could give Mohamed Al Balushi a chance to step on the podium.
Quite true, and that's the whole point of being in the Cooper VIP car. You are basically learning as a novice. You've never driven a race car before, so you go from complete and utter novice in the car. You learn your stripes, you figure out all of the different processes, you learn the science of driving the racing car essentially, and then you get your opportunity to race when the moment is right. And Mohamed Al Balushi is actually doing a fair job, only running about 2 to 3 seconds off the normal race pace of the leaders who do this all the time. So he's definitely going about his education the right way. Salem Al-Ketbi threatening to make this move on Avik Anwar, and there is a little bit of pride at stake in this one, because Avik Anwar has not yet competed in a race in this category. Well, certainly hasn't scored points in this category, I should say. Even if he has competed, he's certainly not shown up on the championship standings, but he has plenty of experience, as we know. Avik Anwar is a character who's been here many a time, so it's going to be a little bit irritating and frustrating for Salem Al-Ketbi, who's trying to get as many points back off Scott Demoler as humanly possible, to be impeded by another driver in his hunt for victory.
Certainly is, and that battle sort of comes together through Sector 1 and Sector 2, but where Salem Al-Ketbi loses it is through Sector 3. Avik Anwar just able to escape up the road and put a couple of more car lanes in between himself and the Salem Al-Ketbi driven number 11, but now we enter what is the final stages of Sector 3, and again you can see that Avik Anwar is losing a little bit of ground to Salem Al-Ketbi as he really starts to reel in that AE86 as they work their way through the final corner. And just behind them now is race leader Alexander Osanivas, who's fast approaching this battle, and as we said, he doesn't want to catch these two in the wrong place. I've just noticed as well, Scott Demoler has found a way past Fahad Al-Zabi. Now, he was quite some way behind. Actually, no, he wasn't, because he was only 0.8 of a second. So, Scott Demoler has put his head down, and he's really got that AE86 car moving. He's found a way past Fahad Al-Zabi, which puts him now into 3rd place, is the American, and he's 0.7 of a second now ahead of Fahad Al-Zabi. If only what happened on the opening lap didn't happen to him, he would have actually had a chance. We'd actually see a 3-way scrap, actually, for the A86. 10 seconds is quite a tough ask to do in, what, 15 minutes? We just lapsed half race distance. But I'm not going to discount Scott Demoler just yet for 2nd position, possibly, because I think he can do this, because he's now lapping 2:04.828. He lapped 2 minutes faster than the Fahad Al-Zabi number 7. He is in the same sort of time bracket as Avik Anwar and Salem Al-Ketbi, but that battle is still brewing, isn't it?
It certainly is. And all these two have to do is start scrapping amongst themselves, and they're going to take massive chunks out of their own advantage that they've got over Scott Demoler. So all it takes is a little bit of battling for manoeuvre, and they'll swap positions, they'll try and defend from each other, they'll block, they'll use the inside line to hold the road, and that's when these guys are really going to start to lose ground to Scott Demoler. So they need to be obviously focusing on winning a race, but they also need to have one eye in the back of their head to watch out for Scott Demoler, because he is definitely coming very quickly across the circuit and starting to eat up that advantage. Just watching him in the final sector, a 41.4 from Scott Demoler. So that overtaking move on Fahad Al-Zabi has definitely given him that little bit of a nudge of confidence, and you can see there Kenny Murray in the background in the Clio race, still trying to keep as close to the likes of Al Sawadi, Al Musa and Taneja as is humanly possible.
And as the battle rages on the 86 Cup, the race leaders managed to find a way through quick and easy. He's also found a way past the the Renault Clios now as well at the tail end of the field. That's Mohamed Al-Balushi behind the wheel, and then behind him is the number 99 as well, that's clawing its way back up. Now Scott Dimmler hasn't yet been able to escape the clutches of Fahad Al-Zabi at the moment as they work their way through the final corner. The gap was 0.7 of a second at the line. It looks to be a lot closer and very different lines actually going through the final corner. Scott Dimmler takes a much tighter line compared to Fahad, who sort of drifts out wide and tries to go around the outside but just can't get the move stuck because, of course, can't go wide on the final corner because you just go over the rumble strips. But the battle for the lead of the 86 Cup rages on here between the 44 and the 11, and I don't think there's any sign of it stopping anytime soon.
No, indeed, and now they've got Ricky Kumba trying to come up to lap them in the Audi R8, so that'll be an interesting one. RS even, not the R8, very different car. The Audi RS3 LMS goes through and leaves them fairly standing. That's the difference between the TCR class and the AE86 in terms of raw pace. But yes, those two cars are going to continue to battle away for position. There is the Clio in 5th position. I think that is the Cooper VIP car. That is the 20 of Mohamed Al-Balushi. Still trying to close up on the cars in front, but he is learning on the job. He is learning just how to get the best out of that Clio, and it's not all going to come at once. Now, these two have started to spread away, Sultan Al Suwaidi and Ahmed Al Musa. Why is it so important that Sultan Al Suwaidi manages to keep this pace up? Well, he's still searching his first win of this campaign. He's had a second and 3/3, but both Taneja and Al Musa have won races this year. Well, I say races. Taneja's won 3 times, Al Musa just the once, which is why Al Musa is giving it plenty of gusto to try and get through, because he knows that Taneja is behind him, having won 3 of the 4 races this year. It's an opportunity for Al Musa to tighten that position in the championship fight, but it's also a chance for him to take a second win, and this is where it's going to get interesting, as Sultan Al Suwaidi actually made a slight mistake there through turn 1, and now Ahmed Al Musa is getting very close.
Indeed he is, and it's interesting to see how even Rahul Taneja is dropping back, because usually what happens in these Renault Clio races we have here as part of the NGK UAE ProCar Championship, it's always Rahul Taneja and Ahmed Al Musa that are always battling till the very end, and these two literally lean on each other, they bang each other's doors in, and it's usually them scrapping it out throughout the 30 minutes. But Rahul Taneja, I don't think the car's quite set up the way he wants it to at the moment. He was very strong in the opening laps, but now he's sort of strafing away from the leading duo, who are now side by side, almost going down towards the UP building hairpin. It's just strange to see Rahul Taneja drop this far back, because he was less than a car length only 3 laps ago, and now he's almost a full corner behind in the 3rd placed Renault Clio, as the battle still rages on ahead of him. The good news is, though, for Rahul is that maybe he's preserving something here now for the end of the race, although there's 10 minutes to go. He might need to start putting it into 5th gear already, as he'll want to catch up with these two as they work their way through the bowl complex, as Al Musa tries to go around the outside. That's not going to work, but a much tighter line as he works his way out of the bowl, and through turn 15 they go down towards the final corner. They go now for what would be the 10th time.
So this is getting pretty spicy between the two Clio drivers at the front. We just saw a mistake for Kenny Murray as he locked up at the end of the back straight. So easy to do, especially towards the second half of the race, when the tyres have already started really putting in the best that they can possibly do in the early stages to get the fast laps in. But once the tyres start to heat up, it's hard to maintain the optimum temperature that you need to give them that long-lasting life and get those lap times out of the car as the race progresses. You really have to manage those tyres. However, Alexandros Anivas is proving that his car just keeps going and going. A 1:48.6 for him. That's nearly 4 seconds quicker than the other car in the category, Ricky Kumba. There he is in the Audi. Whoops, that's not quite the racing line, Mohammed. I'm sure he'll get it right next time.
Well, the Mercer Racing team, they do a very good job of building their team. Have done an excellent job with all their cars throughout every season, and they've raced the current generation of the Cooper, they've raced the old generation of the Cooper. I think they've raced pretty much everything under the sun, including a Renault Clio, and they always bring their A game when they come down to the Greek squad, and they're always the ones to watch in. They're always the ones that are sort of the ones to look out for and the real championship contenders here. It's great to see Anivas here out. I don't think he was actually here last race weekend. I don't remember seeing Anivas on the entry list, although if you look at the scoring, he was indeed. So maybe he was just so fast so we completely missed him. But that's usually how Anivas does it here. And as Jake said, he's lapping almost 4 seconds faster in comparison to the second of the TCR cars, which is the Audi RS3 LMS that we see on the screen now. And of course, that's the same car that did the 6 hours of Yas 1 week ago, and unfortunately just didn't go their way.
So yet again, Kenny Murray finding himself locking up in that tight hairpin. It's not easy to get that apex right because it essentially tightens at the middle part of the apex and then it opens up. You find you're having to open up the steering wheel and get on the power just that little bit earlier. And it's easy to get wrong because it's a changing corner in terms of apex. It's not a straight hairpin, but it's not a tight square right either. You really have to blend the car in. That's one of the things I love about this circuit. The corners that you look at, because of the different changes of camber, because of the difference in speed from one apex to another, because of where the race circuit is actually faster in certain parts of the middle of the corner, there are so many changes through the race, and sometimes you even have to adapt your racing line at certain sections of the race depending on how the tyres are coping, depending on how the brakes are coping. So it really is a changing dynamic of a racetrack, as there goes Ricky Coomber putting a lap on the Scottish driver Kenny Murray, and on his way to second place.
And of course, it's not just the heat of the cars that are generating heat on the tyres, it's the heat outside as well, because the UAE is still rather warm even during the winter season, as we now see the battle of the AE86s. There on screen is the Clios, but we're focusing on the AE86s because Salah Al-Khatbi, he just can't find a way past Avik Anwar here in the 44, and it's great to see Avik proving himself out there against veterans of the 86 car and the championship as well. And it's good to see the form of Avik as well, and I hope we see more of him as the season progresses, as they come across the line with just 0.2 of a second between the two of them in 8th and 9th place. Scott Dimmler dropping back, but he's still putting at least some time in between himself and Fahad Al-Zabi. The gap there is 1.1 seconds, but it's 13.4 to the leading AE86 cars. As it looks like Salah Al-Khatbi there trying to look on the inside there as soon as the camera's panned across. Now, where are the two? They should be working their way onto the back straight. Now, it will be a slate grey car. No, it won't be the Nardo grey car in front. Or it looks like he had to back out of the corner as round the outside goes Ahmed Al-Musa in the Renault Clio through the bowl. Can he get the switch back when he rolls his way through? No, he can't. And Sultan Al-Suwaidi shuts the door on him. And as Jake said, Sultan Al-Suwaidi looking for his first win in the Renault Clio Cup class. I think last year he raced in the trophy class. I'm pretty sure we saw him on the top 10 podium. In dive to the inside goes Ahmed Al-Musa. They lean on each other going through, and Al-Musa had to brake as late as possible. So Al-Suwaidi runs wide but keeps the position.
I think he's damaged the car because he came on the inside line of him. I think he's actually started to damage the car. But does that look like it's crabbing to you a little bit?
There looks to be some sort of damage there on the right-hand side. If you look at the fender, it looks just a little bit too much. It looks like it's
he's crabbing.
Too much. Yeah,
that car's crabbing. He's completely destroyed it. He's just gone banzai in, and look, he is really struggling to get that car stopped at the apex. The car is basically traveling sideways. It's almost like in iRacing when you have a massive dent and the car basically starts moving slightly to one side when you're in a straight line. So that car looks almost impossible to handle now for Ahmed Al-Musa, but he just made the big commitment, didn't he? He dived in the final turn. He thought, well, this is the only way I'm going to get him. So he's made the lunge, but look at it, in a straight line. That car looks like it's really starting to crab.
It certainly does, and he's losing ground now to Sultan Al-Suwaidi as we work our way on the back straight with about 5 minutes to go on the clock for Sultan Al-Suwaidi and Ahmed Al-Musa. And as we said now, Rahil Tanaja has a chance now to catch up and challenge for second place in the class, as just behind them actually is the second place TCR car of Ricky Coomber in the number 99 for ZRT Motorsport as they work their way up to the UP building hairpin. As onto the back straight goes Mohammed Al-Balushi. It'll be very interesting to see now what happens with Ahmed Al-Musa. We'll see if we can get a closer view of the car when it comes into view, but there certainly does appear to be some damage to at least the right-hand side of the car. Maybe it's just a loose front bumper. It doesn't look, but it doesn't look too good for Ahmed Al-Musa. He's staying with the race leader in the Renault Clio Cup category, but he's losing ground now.
Yeah, I think that something's happened with the tracking on that car. He's just decided on the previous lap to make the banzai move onto the inside of Sultan Al-Suwaidi. I think he's just nudged him as they went side by side. He had to bail out of the move. We saw the aftermath of that, but I'm very keen to watch this car again in a straight line because it doesn't quite look right ever since he's made that move. There's your leader, Alexandros Anivas, and he is getting close to the end of his race. Let's look down the straight at that 77. Look at the difference between the 91 of Sultan Al-Suwaidi. That looks like a Clio pointing in the straight line, going in the right direction. It definitely looks as though Ahmed Al-Musa has just put that car in far too hot into the final corner. He scraped the side of Sultan Al-Suwaidi's car, and something is not quite right on that Clio. Maybe he's got a slow puncture developing.
possibly. Now he's got an Audi in between himself and Sultan Al Suwaidi. I've also just noticed that Sultan Al Suwaidi may have a cheeky cooling method for the inside of the car, because his car windows look slightly darker compared to the rest. Now, that's a very interesting, because I'm looking at the back windshield there. I know it's a rather odd detail to look at, but if you see, you can't really see through the windshield of that car that much, whereas if you look at Ahmed Al Musa's car, you can kind of see straight through. So a little bit of a cheeky cooling method there for the Emirati driver as he continues on looking for his first race victory here in the NGK UAE ProCar Championship in the Renault Clio Cup category. Now, Scott Dimmler has not been able to shake Fahad Al-Zabi, and looks like Al-Zabi is sticking with him as well. The gap's come down now to 0.7 of a second. But on that lap, Avik Anwar did a personal best of 2:03.320, lapping it about 0.6 of a second? No, 0.5 of a second faster in comparison to Salam Al-Ketbi. As race leader across the line, completing lap number 15. We should have 2 laps to go. So this is the penultimate lap now for Alexander Sanivas, who leads from the 99 of ZRT Motorsport. And Ahmed Al Musa, unfortunately, as we said, possible contact between himself and Sultan Al Suwaidi. And that's just dropping that Clio back. Now, he hasn't lost significant ground. He's not dropping in the clutches of Rahul Tanaja, because it actually looks like the Indian is actually getting slower as well as the race progresses. I wonder if he just used up too much of the car in the opening laps as race leader comes back on some back marker traffic going onto the back straight.
I mean, fair play to Ahmed Al Musa. He is still going at a fairly decent rate. He's just done a 2-minute flat, which is very impressive if the car has got damage. It does look slightly askew. Now, that was sensible from Alexandros Sanivas. He waited until he was on the back straight to lap Scott Dimmler and Fahad Al-Zabi, and now they can continue their duel for 3rd position, and a proper duel it is. But they're both going about 4 seconds a lap slower than the likes of Avik Anwar and Salam Al-Ketbi. For the man who has won the vast majority of the races so far this season, Scott Dimmler, he really is off the pace today. He's not been able to get the most out of his AE86 today. 99, Ricky Kumba, still running well on his own there in 2nd place, a good 35 seconds now away from the pace of Alexandros Sanivas, and that's over half a minute that the Grecian has now managed to extend out in front. So a solid day at the office. Did a sticker just fly off the 8 there?
It looks like it.
There's something certainly parted company with Kenny Murray's Clio. It was nothing that could cause any major problems, but it just looked like a decal just blew off in the wind.
Making the car lighter so it can go faster. Should have done that earlier on, as the battle for the AE86 Cup car category is sort of dying down now. It's not as close as it would be before, as Avik Anwar has put a 1.5 seconds in between himself and the Salam Al-Ketbi driven number 11. As there is the battle for the Clio Cups, and it's still Sultan Al Suwaidi, as we said, looking for his first win here with a gap of 1 second. We're now on the last lap of the race here for Alexander Sanivas, race leader, we said, by almost 25 seconds. Lock up there from Kenny Murray, a bit late on the brakes there on the right-hand side, but he's got the car through, so that's always good news. And the car is lighter now, so he does have to take that into consideration.
Absolutely right. And you've got Ricky Kumba coming through. He very nearly got the checkered flag then. I think they're just preparing it ready, because obviously we are on the last lap, but it's the other TCR that's got to come through first. Now, here come the leaders again in the Clios, who have now been lapped by both men, Alexander Sanivas and Ricky Kumba. And again, yeah, you can just see the rear of the Clio is almost trying to overtake the front of Ahmed Al Musa's car. It doesn't quite look right, so we'll have to see whether they obviously get the sledgehammers out and sort of put it back into position, ready for the later race.
Well, they've got to be careful, because they've got a race. They've got 2 races in between the next one, so they need to get their car repaired quite fast. But as Jake pointed out there, you can see it looks a bit skew-if. It looks like it's leaning a bit too much to the left-hand side. Will be the right-hand side, at least for the driver, but left-hand for our pictures here. As we're looking out now for the race leaders, Mohammed Al-Balushi is working his way through turn. The final corner actually is Alexander Sanivas is in between the 2 AE86s, and it looks like it will go the way of Avik Anwar, because the leader is right behind him. And will he get another lap in? No, he won't. So this is Salam Al-Ketbi's last chance to try and make a move, but I don't think he's close enough. As through the final corner now comes Alexandros Sanivas to take the victory here overall in the NGK UAE ProCar Championship and in the TCR category. That's another win for the Greek driver. As across line, Avik Anwar wins in the AE86 Cup with Salam Al-Ketbi in 2nd place. Scott Dimmler in the red AE86 working his way through the final corner. He's put quite a gap in between himself. And it looks like, well, that's a bit of a late pit stop now for Fahad Al-Zabi. Why is he coming to the pit lane? He should have taken at least the checkered flag to come through. And is he actually missing something on his wheel? Because why has he got... Looks like he has...
You know, I think he has, yeah. I wonder if he's lost the hubcap.
He certainly has, because he's got 3 white rims and only 1 black one on the right-hand side as he works his way into the pit lane. As across the line now comes Ricky Kumba to take second in TCR. And then it's this battle here for the Renault Clios, and it looks like Ahmed Al-Musa will have to try again in race 2 as Sultan Al Suwaidi, the Emirati, works his way through the final corner looking for his first race victory in the Renault Clio Cup car class. Across the line, and he nails it on point just ahead of Ahmed Al-Musa. And then we wait Rahil Tanaja across the line now to complete the podium.
Fabulous job from Sultan Al Suwaidi. He soaked up all the pressure in that race. He made a good early move on the first lap and just held on to it for the remaining half hour. And that's not easy when you've got someone as motivated as Ahmed Al-Musa giving you plenty of jip around the course. And it was very, very brave of Sultan Al Suwaidi to stick to his guns. A lesser driver would probably have bailed out of that final corner and given the other guy the lead to avoid contact. But he stuck to his guns. He knew he had the racing line. He knew that he was in the right. So he just held his nerve. And he was fortunate there. Ahmed Al-Musa actually came off worse. He looks like he's got some issues with the tracking of that car now that need to be put right, ready for race 2. But Sultan Al Suwaidi comes away from it with his first win. Avik Anwar, the Bangladeshi, comes away with his first win of the season as well.
It's a great way to end the first race here of the NGK UAE ProCar Championship. That about wraps it up. We'll be back shortly with the final race of the day for the F3 Asian Championship, and we'll hand over commentary duties to the guys over at F3, but Jake and I will be back on. Well, you get more of Jake actually come to think, because we'll be doing some pit lane reporting down there. So stay tuned. I'll see you in a bit, but Jake will see you momentarily.